Cheers.
Cheers. Some jelly bean sweets shit right there.
So good.
So good.
Iced
coffee.
Iced coffee if you're watching on the old YouTuber. I'm always going to put a plug in there. If you're not subscribed to YouTube, please go subscribe. Help us grow our following in our subscription to viewing the greatest of all time fashionably late lesbians here.
It's true. We were just talking about becoming the OG lesbians of the town that we live in. It's gonna happen.
Small town, but
wait for it.
We see it. We're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, like Hollywood Stars, but like lesbian edition.
We're talking about like painting
right here
some rainbow shit outside our house. We're always crafting up
we got a couple
kind
steps
of
till we get there, but it's all right.
We're halfway through our coffee. Just wait for it. It's
and
happening.
We're over halfway through Monday. So sorry about
6 p.m.
it.
We were enjoying the
Happy
weekend.
Labor Day.
Yeah, Labor Day, and I wish every Monday was like this. Can we get like
same
just like every single Monday just to be like nobody's doing anything anymore?
Yeah,
we're just
before
chilling.
we dive into our topic, I want to tell everybody about how last night we were at a bonfire and we stumbled into a group of coworkers that were having a conversation about the best part of their day and the worst part of their day. And we kind of entered halfway through and then they made it around the circle and they asked us and kind of caught us off guard. And it was the first time I think anybody has ever asked me that question, but that I was able to look at them and be like, there was no bad part of my day. And that's how I feel about today too. And like, my days have just been really fucking good.
Did we even have an answer for
I think I joked about like the fact that I felt a little bit fucking constipated in the morning was the worst part of my day.
You did not say that to them.
No, fuck no, I didn't say it to them. I said it after we walked away.
Yeah, but what did we say the worst part? Oh, was that we had to clean
pack and clean up from the lake house that we spent the weekend at.
Like that was like, oh, we gotta get
woe is us.
We gotta clean all the rooms and strip the bedding. Yeah. No big deal.
We've had great days.
It's been good.
I'm enjoying it. Days.
I am enjoying it. So what are we talking?
Today we are talking about a book that we're reading.
Yes.
It's called Lesbian Love Addiction.
I think we've mentioned it before on the podcast, so nothing new here. We're still reading this book. We don't have a lot of time to ever read, so it's kind of takes us a while.
Yeah, but we're reading it together, and each like chapter or big chunk that we get through, we stop and we talk about it. And we
have a book club. If you want to join, we're really not that far in. So get the book on Amazon, Lesbian Love Addiction. This is what it looks like if you're watching YouTube. It's by, who is this? Lauren Costine?
I don't know, but she has a PhD. It's a very...
So she's smart.
She's so smart. And it's a very informational book. Like, I feel like educational was maybe the better word to use there. But it has a storyline, but then it also stops and it tells you tons of different things that I find very relatable, new things that I read it and I'm like, holy shit, that makes so much sense, but I've never heard anybody put it into that type of
or even if it's not super relatable, but there are areas where you're like, I don't want that to happen in my relationship. Yeah. I want to avoid that.
Yeah.
It like shows the signs to like pay attention for. And I feel like because lesbian relationships are very different.
Yeah.
From what we're familiar with. It's nice to have this guided, outline of what can be a little destructive sometimes.
Yeah. So it says understanding the urge to merge and how to heal when things go wrong. So it kind of just like breaks down lesbian relationships and why we think the way that we think. And there's a part of it that we read in chapter 2. We're not that far along. About anxiety in general and breaking it down into 3 different types of anxiousness when it comes to relationships. So we thought that we would read the 3 and then discuss them. Am I reading all 3 of these? You're staring at me like I'm a teacher or something.
I'm kind of liking this setup.
Really?
Yeah.
We should just read this book every time, book every time, an excerpt.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 different kinds. Anxious, resistant.
Can I just say something before we get started?
Yeah.
I have that anxious personality where I was like the kid in class that like when I knew it was my turn to read, I would be like reading ahead of everybody else what my chapter was, so like I didn't stumble.
So that you were prepared.
I was prepared, and I didn't stumble over my words. I'm that person, so like if you're expecting me to read like and put me on the spot and it's like a big word, I might like
okay, but do you
want
to know the funniest part of that is that I used to be that same kid and I would dread my turn to read, so I'm surprised I'm okay with sitting here and reading. Probably because it's just you in the room with me.
Probs.
Yeah.
All right.
I like reading to
Let's dive into it. I like when you read to me.
Okay. The first one is anxious resistant. Second one is anxious avoidant. Third one is disorganized anxiousness.
I don't think either of us are disorganized, but carry on.
All right, so I'll read the anxious resistant first and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Infants with anxious resistant or ambivalent behavior are leery of strangers even in the presence of their mother and often display ambivalence toward the mother when she returns. The studies indicate that these infants are usually subject to predictable parenting. The mother responds in a warm and sensitive manner some of the time, but at other times she does not. This unpredictability pushes the infant to behave in ways that offer them control, such as resisting the mother's bid for closeness when she returns home.
So that's saying basically, because that was a lot of big words for me right there.
Yeah.
But basically, what that's saying is sometimes mom is in a good mood and soft and gentle.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it is not.
Unpredictable.
It's unpredictable, and mom might be a little bipolar and snap.
It sounds like normal. Like that's probably more of like a quote unquote normal situation. Most moms can have ups and downs in their behavior, response, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when mom comes home, the kid is not, the infant or toddler is not attached. Is that what it was saying?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. I want to see something really quick. Hold, please. Okay.
Okay, next one.
Anxious avoidant. So this infant shows little signs of distress when mom leaves or returns. Sometimes the infant will act indifferent or angry, but they are very protective of themselves and show avoidance of the stranger when left with that person. Studies indicate that the anxious avoidant child's emotional needs may not have been adequately met. Consequently, a type of hopelessness sets in. They are indifferent to the mother when she returns, though it may seem as if this child is unbothered by the difference. Data suggests that they are internally distressed.
I feel like that's me.
It feels like maybe that one's a little bit more of like the neglected feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Third one, disorganized anxiousness. This is the most distressed of all styles. A disorganized infant shows unusual or disoriented behavior in the stranger's situation. Head cocking, jerking movements, extreme forms of fear, distraction, and detached behaviors are not uncommon. Infants who display this behavior often come from violent or abusive households. They may have tragically encountered sexual trauma in infancy. Yikers. I don't feel like that's either of us.
Mm-mm.
I also don't feel like these are the three that I wanted to read on here.
No?
No.
I thought there was like a checklist. Maybe I made that up in my head.
We might have to start this over when I find the right ones.
Or
it's these. It's not that. That's all about infancy. Then it switches to adults.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's just keep recording and talk about it for adults.
It's secure, anxious, and avoidant. Those were the three that I wanted to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about those.
Okay. You don't want to pause it and start it over?
I do not want to pause it and start it over. I just want to keep it going.
Okay, the first one, secure. The second one is anxious. The third one is avoidant. So this is more like adult level in the relationship.
But it was interesting to hear some of the outcomes for infancy of like how it's kind of because a seed the way that's planted, right?
Yeah, the way that the book sets it up is it'll tell you like things about how a lesbian will become a lesbian. Like this is a common trend that happened to younger women, girls, people that end up becoming a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it like that stood out to me was that it's often that lesbians had a really, really close, almost like obsessive relationship with their moms. And that was something that I had. I was basically living at my mom's, like attached to her hip all the time.
And I wonder if that's different for maybe more masculine lesbians, or AKA tomboys is like what I was always referred to. And I didn't have the very close relationship with my mom because we didn't have that like identity connection that was missing. And she didn't quite understand, other than, well, you have 4 brothers, so you just think you're a boy.
Yeah. You were just kind of like
so
tossed into
I
the
just
mix
wonder
up.
if, like, when you start to identify more on if you're more masculine versus feminine, or like you're more fluid.
Yeah. That's yeah, I'm not sure. So this is kind of moving into like, now you're an adult, you're in a relationship, and there's 3 types of approaches towards the relationship. So the first one is secure. A securely attached lesbian feels naturally happy when in a relationship. Faithful, reliable, accountable, reasonable, and loving. She is available and enjoys both emotional and sexual intimacy with her partner. Because of her secure attachment, she does not become preoccupied or feel the need to flee from her partner. She believes her partner when she says that she loves her and trusts her to be faithful. She spends her day focusing on what she needs to focus on, whether it's work, family, or recreation. Research shows that securely attached individuals report higher levels of contentment in their relationship than their insecure counterparts. They also report being happier and more fulfilled in their lives in general. Okay.
Okay.
The next one is anxious. As the name implies, the lesbian worries a lot. She is consistently fearful and preoccupied with her partner's level of interest because she looks for signs of disinterest or a decline in the connection. She is basically on high alert, interpreting the slightest lack of response as a sign of problems. She may also need a lot of reassurance from her partner that everything is okay and she is still loved. An anxious type will interpret her partner's inability to text or call her right back as a sign of impending doom. If she sends a text and does not receive a response immediately, the rest of her day can be spent catastrophizing the relationship or demonizing her partner. She is often acting from anger and believes that her anxiety is the fault of her partner, who she thinks should always provide a swift response and reassurance. And the last one is an avoidant. This lesbian usually values self-sufficiency above all else. Afraid of being suffocated or smothered or losing her independence in a relationship, she never truly is available to her partner. The intensity of the early romantic phase gives a false sense of intimacy to both women, but once the honeymoon phase is over, the avoidance need for independence overrides their initial closeness. Affection and sex diminish. She rationalizes these changes as an important part of her independent spirit. If she decides to stay in the relationship, she may use criticism to further distance herself. This can go on for years, and she will feel alone even when in a relationship, often long to be out of it, forgetting how lonely she was when she was single. She romanticizes past romances and often is intrigued with others while in a relationship. Avoidants are chronically dissatisfied with their romantic life. Ambivalence is their closest friend. Their behavior can be extremely challenging to their partner, and loneliness often becomes the hallmark for both involved.
Wait, and what was that one?
That's avoidant.
Okay.
So I think I know where I land on these 3.
Yeah, I feel like, am I allowed to?
Yeah, let's
let's dive in. Let's discuss. Okay. So at first I felt really connected to secure. I feel like a lot of those things hit on how I feel, but then you also got into anxious, and I felt like there were certain things, not all of it, kind of aligned with how I feel, but there's certain things that...
Are you describing you or me?
Me.
Okay.
I felt that there were certain parts of that I was like, I've been there before. So I don't feel like it is cut right one or the other, like secure, anxious. I feel like there's some like yin yang thing.
You want to know how I envisioned it was like a teeter-totter? Because I feel like sometimes I land in the secure area and sometimes I land in the anxious area, with a sprinkle of avoidant in certain situations. For myself.
That is a whole full-on recipe right there.
I think that everybody can be a little bit of each one. I think that you can land in a primary category, but
maybe it's healthy to have a little dash of it all.
maybe because the
It's
avoidant, I don't match up with most of that as a general personality, not at all.
Mm-mm.
But I think that sometimes, due to the lack of ever handling situations in a healthy way, I've become a little bit avoidant of certain situations, or like I get quiet and
Elaborate.
because you love it.
What are you talking about?
Me being avoidant,
I do not love it.
that's my point. I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
You don't like it when I don't talk about things, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like my biggest downfall. And I will admit that's like that's the part of me that's avoidant, is that I don't know how to handle situations the correct way every time. And so I just kind of like go silent for a minute.
But I think that's also on my end something I'm learning to work through, of being more patient with somebody who is a little bit more of an avoidant in that area, because I can't take it personally and say like and get like super angry or defensive and be like, why can't you talk to me right now? Why won't you open up? I can't force it. So I'm learning to just work through it and be patient, to allow you the right time to like feel like you want to open up.
Yeah.
And the best thing is, like, I think we were telling the boys this recently, that um I think we just said women love to talk about their feelings. We were talking about the difference between like a lot of like men and women, or boys and girls, and just the differences and similarities and how to talk to somebody. And one of the boys was expressing like not understanding if, one minute the girl's in a good mood and the next minute she's
A
not,
little bit bipolar.
or just like mood swing,
Yeah.
natural mood swing.
Yeah.
And to understand that, and to understand like not everything falls on your timeline of when you're going to get the details you want, or the insight that you want, or the release of feelings that you want to feel. And so you have to be patient, but you also have to understand that so
So
many
can I
things play into
ask,
it.
when you say that you felt like you were in the secure category until you heard certain parts of the anxious category, what parts of that category made you think like I relate to that?
So, okay. I think so. I look for signs of disinterest or decline in connection. And like I've opened up and told you before, like I play this little mental game, and I've done it ever since I was a kid. Like, if
Yes.
you butter my bread, you love me.
Yeah.
if
you just did it the other day.
if you do something, like you're getting ready to do something, and I'll be like, if she does this for me first, then she
like if I
loves
put
me.
chapstick on myself,
And then
Kirby
you
will tell themselves in their head, like, if Ember loves me, she'll hand me the chapstick afterward.
Yeah, which is like twisted.
It's a little twisted.
It's a little twisted.
Yeah.
But like I'm constantly
I think it would only really be super twisted if you were to get angry when it didn't happen, though. And
yeah,
you
no, I
don't do
don't. I
that.
don't get angry, because in a sense I'm like looking for
It's
it.
almost like looking for that moment of like, oh, she loves me.
Or to prepare myself for like maybe like someday you don't love me.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's kind of fucked up,
Wow.
but it's kind of, yeah, it is kind of like,
I didn't know this episode was going to get so deep so quickly.
but because this goes back to needing a lot of reassurance, and like
and that's
feeling
something
like
that you
going
do.
back to like childhood, or like feeling like abandoned, or just neglected, or not having your emotional needs met. And then you start to like, if you get quiet, I instantly think, what did I do wrong? And that could go back to my childhood, of when my mom was going through certain things. And maybe it had nothing to do with us kids. Maybe it was a relationship that she was in that just ended, or whatever it was. I always walked on eggshells, and like whatever my mom's mood was, I adjusted my mood. If my mom was, and I think this is very common.
Oh gosh, mom sets the mood for everyone.
But I think now, dating a woman and being with a woman, I don't think men are that roller coasty. Like they're pretty much flat. Like a man is pretty much content, right? Yeah. And his mood doesn't shift that often either. Mm-hmm. He's like happy go lucky, or you just got stuck with an asshole and he's just an asshole all the time. Yeah. And sadly, but like for women, it fluctuates. And so you don't always know if it's on the upside or the downside. And you just kind of roll with it. And you roll with it in the sense of, mom's really fucking quiet today and like irritable and doesn't want to be bothered. So I'm going to stay out of their way and I'm going to not be heard. And I'm going to,
internalize and
yeah,
yeah.
and think that it has something to do with me. And so, like, I think nowadays with you, like, if you're all of a sudden quiet or shifting your energy and like I can tell something's wrong, but you're not opening up to me, like, I start going through my mind of like, what is it about me? Like, what did I not do right? Or, um, I tend to completely back off and give you the space and let you work through it. But at the same time, it's also me saying, like, I got to stay out of their way because that's how I grew up. I got to stay out of their way because, like, I don't want to make it worse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of us for both like opening up about our not so strong.
Yeah. And then, so like, but when it comes to the secure thing, I think what I connect it with is the very last sentence. They also report being happier and more fulfilled in their lives in general. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a pretty positive, happy person, despite certain things I might be going through or internalizing or feeling. Like, overall, like, I'm still a pretty happy go lucky kind of person.
Yeah. I feel like I am too, but only as of recently. I feel like I very much so have taken like a turn towards the more positive me and not being worried about anything else except just like enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Just let it be good.
But then there's parts where it's like, with the secure, you believe your partner when they say that when they love them and they trust them and they're going to be faithful. And I think, um, especially in still somewhat fresh relationships, when you're in a really good place, like, you're not even like, we're not even thinking about like the whole like, I don't believe you try, like, we're always together, like everything we do
Right.
is together. So like that, we naturally feel like, of course, right, of course we're secure because we're always together. But I
Mm-hmm.
think,
I think it goes beyond being always together though, because even people that are always together can be like shady and slimy. I think that it's it's to the point with us where like I would give you my phone for the entire day. And there would be no
mhm.
moment where I was like, "Oh shit, they're going to see this, that, or
Oh yeah,
whatever."
same.
And that's the security level that's like you don't even have to worry about anything.
Hmm.
That feels good.
Yeah.
But I think that some people might struggle with feeling that, even if maybe that's how they naturally are, depending on who their partner is. I think these three definitions of women or people could be moldable to an extent depending on who you're with.
Yeah.
Like if you never gave me the time to listen to my feelings and make me feel heard,
Hmm.
I might be very much so an avoidant all the time because I wouldn't feel that it was worth it to ever talk about how I was
Hmm.
feeling.
I think, and I've said this before, like, you are a reflection of your partner. And I think whatever it is that, like, I'm giving off, you're taking that in. And so, yeah, when I'm giving off a type of energy that's very secure and making you feel seen and making you feel heard, then naturally you're able to carry yourself in a stronger, like, lift your head up and kind of, this is how I feel and feel good about it. If I was putting you down
Right.
for the feelings that you were having and telling you to, like, that's your own fault, get over it, has
Mhm.
nothing, grow up, like, saying
Right.
those types of things that maybe as a child, like, that's why I always try to explain, like, even though we have kids that range so many different ages, when you're like, what do you know about missing somebody, what do you know about a broken heart or whatever, back in the day, like, parents used to not give their children credit for, like, their emotions and their feelings. And I think over time we've learned, like, no, they have just the same amount of emotions, just in a
In
smaller
a smaller
body,
scale, right.
and so to grow up in maybe a situation where you weren't seen and you weren't heard and you were struggling and you were fighting for that. Now that you have that reflection of like your person that's like really gets it, you're just like, I don't have to hide that anymore. I don't have to avoid that anymore. I can say it maybe it takes you a minute to like process it, but it also probably takes you a minute because you're the type of person that likes to write and journal and like feel it and like release it before you can share it.
Yeah.
And I can understand that to an extent because I don't always like to share right away until I've had time to process it too, because I feel like once you open up and say things, you can't take them back always.
And there are some times where you don't want to say things at all because you know that you'll feel differently
Oh my
later
God.
on.
If it's that time of the month and like my emotions are like on a different high of like very I'm not good enough feeling, I might say a lot of things that like the next week I might feel so on top of the world, you know? I don't need to put that out there. I don't want to put that in your head of like I'm not good enough because of this and this.
Yeah. I have those same feelings though. I think too with those three types being moldable and how I said that, I think it also can kind of depend on where you're at in your relationship too, because I look back to like the beginning of our relationship and I think I leaned more towards the anxious out of the three of those. One, because of long distance. It's harder when you're not together every day. I think as you build trust with your partner, that also helps. So I would say, like, for me, I kind of started out in more of like that teeter totter leaning towards like the anxious side. And now it's more so towards the secure with like the random dip of anxious, you know?
No, I get that.
But I would say I landed mostly on anxious in the very beginning for sure. Always expecting a text back. And if you didn't text back, it was like, where the fuck are you? And I would call it obsessed because like that's what we always said, is that we were like obsessed with each other. But when you're falling asleep on the phone after texting all day, or you're sweeping your kitchen and in an AirPod with your person, that's partially being anxious. That's partially needing that constant reassurance, really. You still want to talk to me. You still want me right there with you, even though you're doing something that doesn't even involve me.
The amount of times we were in each other's ear but not even talking and just going on with day-to-day stuff.
It literally just like the grunts and sounds of cleaning and music in the background and children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like looking at each other like, oh my God.
We were a little bit fucking anxiously obsessed for a while.
Anxiously attached. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It didn't break us though. I think it's good to have self-awareness and to understand it and to understand why you might have needed that extra reassurance at that time or what made you feel that way, and understand like what you needed to help you get through that time of your life.
Yeah. And maybe it's even kind of an up and down situation where your relationship could kind of jump from one to the other. Or your personality within your relationship.
Yeah. So I don't know. We challenge you guys to either start reading this book with us, or just talk with your person, with your partner, about what you feel like you guys, what category you fall under: the secure, the anxious, or the avoidant.
Avoidant, yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to make yourself think about it and really dive into your your like highest qualities versus some of the things that maybe you struggle with.
Yeah.
Self-reflection. We should all have it.